Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. My name's Jim. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. Once you've landed on our webpage, you can find a link to our Facebook page, our Boomers General Store, our YouTube channel, and many, many links to places you can listen to our podcast. Thank you for riding along today. It means more than you'll ever know. If you enjoyed this podcast, all I ask is that you share it. That's the only thing I've ever really asked of you, and I would appreciate it.
Housekeeping.
Our housekeeping this week, we had a couple episodes ago called Bookworm, and I said that Grapes of Wrath was one of my two favorite books, but I didn't mention the other favorite book. I did mention the author, Emily Bronte, and the book was Wuthering Heights. I think this is the only book Miss Bronte ever wrote. It's an excellent book. It's very, very captivating, if nothing else. Wanted to correct that. So anyway, Munchies, thank you for not interrupting me during the housekeeping segment here. I do appreciate you being quiet for a change.
No problem, Jim. Yeah. Yeah.
Our song of the week is Mr. Bojangles, written by Jerry Jeff Walker. Our version that we are highlighting today is sung by the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Walker wrote and released this song in 1968. The Dirt Band released it in 1970. Jerry Jeff Walker was in jail in New Orleans in 1965. While he was incarcerated there, he met a guy who was a cellmate along with several other people in this big jail cell, and he called himself Mr. Bojangles. This guy was a homeless guy, and he had been thrown in jail because there was a big police sweep trying to catch some murderer, and this guy was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Just some homeless guy probably sitting on the sidewalk or something, got swept into the jail. Well, he told a story to the people sitting there about his dog who was killed by a car, and then this old Mr. Bojangles did a little tap dance around the cell. Sounds familiar to the song, doesn't it? This character that Jerry Jeff Walker shared a jail cell with, and he took the name Bojangles from a man named Bill Bojangles Robinson, who was an entertainer. He lived from 1878 to 1949. So there's always a little bit of truth in absolutely everything. Everything, everywhere, it doesn't matter. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band version made it to number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. The dog up and died. After 20 years, he still grieved. In 2020, we started hearing about this virus going around called COVID, and it seemed to be associated with China, and all of a sudden they were having press conferences on TV, and people were becoming more and more alarmed. They were telling us what to do and where to go, and all this stuff sounded pretty serious. Well, number one, I am not here to promote or put down vaccinations or mask wearing or how anyone in our government or any government handled it or anything like that. I just want to tell my story of that time that will go down in history probably. I'm not sure that we had such a big deal since the Spanish influenza back in the early 1900s. So here goes. This is my story. We'd been hearing about it and seeing it on TV and stuff. No big deal, right? No big deal. I mean, it was taking up more and more press all the time. Well, my water heater went out, and from my days working for the plumbing company, I knew this plumber. He didn't work for them anymore. He was doing something else. I called him and I told him that my water heater had gone out and what would he suggest that I do. I really didn't want to call a plumber at full price. And so we struck a deal that he'd put it in for me if I went and got it. I went to the plumbing supply house and picked up the one he told me to pick up, took it home, and my buddy Jason came out with his son and his brother-in-law to install that sucker. Jason was always my favorite plumber when he worked at the plumbing company. You know, he was out in the field and I was in the offices and all that stuff, but I knew how these guys performed, and Jason was a heck of a plumber, a very good plumber. So they got the water heater in and everything, and I walked out to tell those guys goodbye to their car, and Jason's brother-in-law said, I just heard on the news the Big 12 basketball tournament has been canceled because of this COVID stuff. What? My basketball tournament, the thing I look forward to every year, the Big 12 tournament and then the big national tournament, you know. And so they went on their way, and I scratched my head and I turned on TV just to see what the heck, if he had lost his mind or something. Sure enough, that tournament had been canceled, and the whole NCAA national tournament was canceled also. Now, I am a big college basketball fan, and this wasn't sitting too good with me. Well, all of a sudden, every place was. You couldn't go out to eat. You couldn't go into a store. You couldn't go to any kind of game or mall or concert or anything. It was all being canceled out. Everything was being shut down. We were stuck at home. Well, because of this, I think a lot of people suffered because they were within four walls with the people they lived with. Now, it was just my wife and we had pretty much been practicing not going very many places and staying home a lot for years and years because, you know, I was retired, and what are you going to do? We live, you know, half an hour from any kind of action whatsoever. The little town I live close to is still 10, 15 minutes away from us. So we stay home a lot anyway. Well, since we couldn't even go to the grocery store or buy a pair of shoes or whatever, we started playing this game called Settlers of Catan. Now, it is a game we've played with friends for years and years and years, and it's a fun game. It's usually, you know, a lot of fellowship while you're playing the game and have a good time and laugh and joke and all that stuff. Well, Kim and I just started playing that game. We play not more than one of that game almost every day. This all started, say, in March of 2020. I just looked, and since March of 2020 up to today when we played the game, we have played 1,080 games of that. So it's not every day, but we practically play a game of that every day. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of fellowship for us. We don't argue very much. We're pretty well matched. Each one of us has won as many games as the other one, pretty close. It's been good for us. It really has. Well, besides playing Settlers of Catan every day, we eventually had to get food. And so I started going, and I'd order my food online and then go pick it up. And you just get on the store's app and tell them you were there, and they'd bring it out and they'd load it up for you, and you couldn't get out of the car or anything, and I'd just put it in the backseat of my pickup truck. You wouldn't touch anybody. You couldn't, no paper was passed or anything. I found that kind of strange. Now, I could buy almost everything I ordered was in stock except for toilet paper. After a while, I decided after, 6 months or 5 months something, that we needed to look into getting toilet paper. Now let me go back a few more years to Y2K. When Y2K was approaching, I asked myself, because there was great concerns that every computer in the world would stop and commerce would be frozen at a standstill, and what could you do? So I asked myself, what's the two things that I could not do without, clear back then in Y2K? And the two things were Water, you can't do without fresh water, you really can't. And toilet paper. So when Y2K came, I had so much toilet paper, let alone lots and lots and lots of water stored up. But I probably, I had 80, 90 rolls of toilet paper. So when the lockdown happened, I didn't have to worry about it. But I thought, well, if this thing goes for years, we could have a problem. So I was down to about 50 rolls. Now, I didn't go out there and buy up the toilet paper. By the time I even thought about toilet paper, it was gone from the stores. So I wasn't one of those hoarder people that went and, bought. I remember when 9/11 happened, I just happened to be going to the grocery store that evening after work. I walked in, people were crazed and the shelves were empty and they were pushing 2 or 3 carts, full of water and stuff, and their eyes were full of fear and stuff. And I just wanted to get what was on my list. Well, anyway, so I went to a Dollar General. I knew my grocery store didn't have any, but I thought, I'll try this Dollar General. Maybe they have toilet paper. And I saw a lady carrying a 4-pack, and I asked her where she found that toilet paper. And she stopped, looked at me right in the eyes. She held it out, and she said, I got the last one, and you can have it. Now, she might not add any toilet paper at home. I have no idea. I didn't ask her how much toilet paper she had at home. She possibly could be out. And I had 50 rolls at home. So what did I do? What did you do, Jim? I looked at her and I thanked her very much. And I said, you keep the toilet paper. I don't need it that bad. But thank you so much for offering the last package of toilet paper in that store. Possibly the last package of toilet paper in the county. I don't know. When we'd bring our food home, we would spray it down with this alcohol and water mixture. It was supposed to be something like Lysol spray. Spray down all the packaging and all that stuff. We didn't know. They were saying people were dying. It was, you're going to know several people that are going to be dead before this thing was over. Oh, okay. Well, we'll take all the precautions we can. I even owned a mask. The reason I own a mask, though, is my daughter sent us masks. We didn't have any masks and didn't even really know how to buy one. Do you go get fitted for one? What is this thing, anyway? We did buy wipes, alcohol wipes or whatever they are, the Clorox wipes. I like the Lysol wipes. The box was square and it wouldn't roll around in the car. So now those are hard to find, the Lysol wipes. You can find, we have wipes. To this day we have wipes. When I go into the grocery store, I carry a wipe with me in case they're all out. But I've been using wipes on my grocery store shopping cart. I like to call it a buggy. My wife makes fun of me for calling it a buggy. But years ago, I was in the bathroom at a grocery store, and some guy came out of the stall, walked right by me as I was washing my hands, walked out, and I saw him pushing a buggy. Hadn't washed his hands after he went to the bathroom like that. So I'd been wiping down my buggies for years. I still remember that guy doing that. Well, I've seen it several times since then, but that's what got me going. And I noticed one thing. As I wiped down the handles and, the buggy, basically, wherever you're going to put your hands on that sucker, I started getting fewer colds and I was sick less. So it only made sense to not touch anything maybe they coughed into their hand, and then grab their shopping cart, buggy. So I've been doing that for years. Well, to this day, I still wipe down my buggy when I go in the grocery store, but I always carry a wipe or two with me just in case they don't have any. I've learned, though, now you go to customer service and they'll give you a whole bunch of them. Once we started being able to go out to places, I have a couple grandkids that are in theater and they start having plays again. And it was the weirdest thing. They'd have to wear masks. But they wore these see-through masks. You could see them kinda, but you could still see their face through the mask. And that was odd, I thought. And they finally stopped doing that. But I'm glad that they let these kids do this stuff, like start playing games and having plays and stuff like that. Because there for the longest time, that summer of 2020, I'd watch baseball game on TV and there's nobody at the game. They had cutouts of people sitting in the stands. Do you remember that? Oh, you could see Muhammad Ali sitting there. I know he's long dead. Maybe Kevin Costner. Maybe George Washington. They had cutouts of people. They tried to do regular looking people, not really famous people, with a famous person thrown in here and there. Just, what, give me a break. If you want to go to a baseball game, go to a baseball game. My wife and I did both catch COVID later on after the big scare was over. I'm not trying to minimize that virus at all. I knew a guy that had to be on a ventilator. I don't think I really knew anyone that died right off the top of my head. I know we're in our 70s and we were at a higher risk. But when I got it, and the only reason I knew I got it is because my daughter sent by UPS or something a couple COVID test kits, and I tested positive. It was like I had a bad cold for a week. What I did notice about it, though, were the lasting effects. For a month, I was very, very tired. I mean, exhausted. The least little thing did make me tired. So I'm not saying that thing wasn't real, but I do think that mankind panicked, very much so. I guess it's better to be safe than sorry. I do understand that. And I know it became a political hot potato, and that's why I'm not talking about my views on any of this stuff. It's sad that our world always becomes politicized so easily, the least little thing. I do think it's big fallout from that as it divides us, and I don't want to be divided from my friends or my family at all. We all have different opinions and outlooks on things. One time I went into a store after, they started letting us go in stores, and I guess I was supposed to wear a mask. I didn't see anything on the door. You know how they have the door, you have to wear a mask. So I just went in there. I had that mask in my hand, but no sign said I had to. And this lady behind the counter started screaming at me. So I said, okay, relax. Here's my mask. I don't care. Wear the mask, even if I hated wearing it. The good thing about all this is there are a lot of great mask jokes on social media. Some of them really made me laugh. My 70th birthday that year, my wife put together 3 Zoom birthday parties for me. And that was wonderful. It touched my heart. I got to see people I hadn't seen in a long time. She had one divided into family, close family, one divided into friends, and the other, I think, other family, like, cousins and stuff. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful that she would do that for me. And then people took time out of the day. Of course, what are they going to do? They were locked down. But that doesn't matter. It took some doings just to get it on Zoom and do that. It made me feel loved. Well, that's my story. I know I'll come up with other stuff that happened. But it doesn't matter. It's 2024 now, and I know everything changed after that, and I did change a lot. I don't go out to eat as often. I view things a little differently. Always be kind, no matter what the circumstances. Kindness alone can get you through whatever you're going through, or whatever someone else is going through. I'll be back next Wednesday with bells on. Peace out.